This is exercise 10. My name is Lisbeth Araceli Basurto Rosales and I'm going to talk about the Cold War. I'm going to start with what was the Cold War. It was to dominate international affairs for decades and many major crises occurred. The Cuban Missile Crisis, Vietnam, Hungary and the Berlin Wall being just some. For many the grounding weapons of mass destruction was the most worrying issue. Now I'm going to talk about some important dates of the Cold War. First, we have the creation of the Iron Curtain, which is a term used to describe the boundary that separates the Warsaw Pact countries from the NATO countries, from about 1945 until the end of the Cold War in 1991. Another important event was the Marshall Plan. It was the American program to aid Europe where the United States gave monetary support to help rebuild European economies after the end of the World War II in order to prevent the spread of Soviet communism. Then we have the Berlin Airlift. It was where Soviets placed a blockade on the Allied sector of Berlin to stir the population into Soviet alliance. The blockade was a Soviet attempt to stir out the Allies in Berlin in order to gain supremacy. In 1949, the prospect of further communism expansion prompted the United States and 11 other Western nations to form the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also known as NATO. Then we have a Sputnik crisis. It was the American reaction to the success of the Sputnik program. It was a Cold War event that began on October 4, when the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the first artificial Earth satellite. Then we have the creation of the Berlin Wall. It was erected in the dead of night and for 20 years it kept East Germans from fleeing to the West. This is another important event, the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was the closest the world ever came to nuclear war. And finally, we have the dissolution of the USSR. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics was formally dissolved on 26 December of 1991 by declaration of the Soviet of the Republics of Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union. Now I'm going to talk about what the term Cold War refers to. The term in common usage refers to a war that consists of a direct conflict rather than a direct conflict, a war with casualties, but no battles or armed fighting. Also, it is known that the term Cold War was instantly embraced by American newspapers and magazines as a description of the situation between the United States and Soviet Union, a war without fighting or bloodshed, but a battle nonetheless. Now I'm going to talk about different types of economic systems. Capitalism. It is an economic system characterized by private or corporate ownership of capital goods, by investments that are determined by private decision and by prices, production, and the distribution of goods that are determined mainly by competition in a free market. Now I'm going to tell how it works. First, we have the individual. Ultimately, the burden and cost of the state fall on the individual who is forced to pay for its unsustainable practices. Then, we have the central banking. With the instrument of central banking, a boom-bust cycle of malinvestment is generated by excessive and unsustainable credit expansion to business and borrowers through the banks. After this, we have the state violence, exclusive monopoly of force and coercion claimed by the state, primarily through the instruments of various agents such as the police and military. Is also delegated to other actors in certain cases. Up to this, we have the corporatists, those benefiting from government business collusion in order to eliminate competition and gain private advantage through the state violence and force, often confused with capitalism. At the top of the pyramid, we have the state, a group of individuals who claim the right to initiate force against others, which possess an exclusive monopoly of ultimate decision making and conflict arbitration within a specific geographic region. The father of capitalism was Adam Smith. He was an 18th century philosopher and political economist. Now I'm going to talk about socialism. It's the collective ownership by all the people of the factories, mills, mines, railroads, land, and all the other instruments of production. Socialism means production to satisfy human needs, not as under capitalism, for sale and profit. Now I'm going to explain how it works. It is against capitalism, and it says that all is from all are equal, and all have to work. Each person have a role. There aren't social classes. It is based on the property and the administration of the good production. Karl Marx is considered as the father of socialism. He is the one who took things like the varieties of Rousseau and took them to their logical and complete conclusion. If you read him and understand him, then you can understand better socialism.
Hello, my name is Lisbeth, and I'm interviewing my teacher, Novelo. Hi, Professor.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Professor Mar Joaquin Nobel Hernandez. I study communication and I with journalists specialized. And I'm teacher here in Tech Millennium from lots of assignments, and I'm gonna help you from this homework. I hope very well.
Yes, you're going to do it. So great. So let's start. What countries were the world leaders during this period?
Okay, in the period, the time of the Cold War, the leaders of the world used to be the Soviet Union, today or nowadays becoming Russia, and United States. Okay, they were like the most hegemonic countries around the world because they established the new order world. Okay.
Now, why did the countries who were allies during the war become enemies afterwards?
Okay, it's because previous to the Second World War, the most important leaders around the world were France, England, maybe Germany, because they leader for their armies, for the economic, for the revolution industry or something like that. But suddenly, when United States and Soviet Union need to fight against the German and the Nazi government, they help to these countries, and these countries were ruined after the war. So they decide that the new world order must be divided in two parts: communism for the Soviet Union and capitalism from the United States. And they divided the world. Okay, some people say that it's a steel curtain. Okay, and they decided to create the steel curtain to divide the world in capitalism and communism. Okay, so in this case it was very difficult to get allies with that opposite situation in the economic and in the political establishments. Okay, the status quo changed. Why? The communism said that all the people in the country need to have the same services, the same education, the same economic efforts or something like that. And for in the other hand, you have to capitalism that say that if you can get rich even more than the other, you need to fight with that richest, okay, to get wealthy and maybe to have more than the others. So it wasn't possible to have the same match, because in the communism you have everything is in the same parts for everybody, okay? But in the other hand, you have a little piece of the population have lots of the things that the other couldn't be have, okay? So that's the situation that we have the opposites.
Okay, so where did the Cold War take place?
Exactly in a place we don't have any options, because the Cold War was like a virtual war. Exactly, we don't fight anything. We don't have bottles. We don't have like positions in some places. But if you need to divide the world, Europe is a perfect place, because Europe was divided, about the Berlin Wall, and East Europe was part from the communism and Soviet Union, and the Occidental world was part from the United States. So we don't fight any battle, because all the times we are trying to fight with another things, maybe discoveries, maybe inventions, maybe like to be the first one in some things, maybe with the spatial career. You say you listen something about it. The Soviet Union was the first one to achieve sent a comet or a rocket to the space, and on the other hand we have the United States with the first one to achieve the moon, and in the other hand you have the first one to achieve to send a dog, and this is like the way that they fought this war, okay? But exactly in a place, there is no a place. Let me tell you some countries with the Soviet Union: Poland, Ukraine, Vietnam, North Korea, China, Cuba, obviously, and all the Soviet Unions, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, something like that. In the opposite, you have France, England, Spain, Portugal, with the capitalism way of life, okay? So it was difficult to say exactly a place, but because remember, it's a virtual war, but it was very dangerous, because even when it's a virtual war, if somebody, I don't know how to say, if somebody treat to the other country or to the other leader as a very strict force, maybe could be took place some third world or something like that, because they took place some another inventors, okay, about the weapons of the wars.
What opinion did the general public have of the Cold War?
I think that the Cold War, from the Occidental people, we are part of the Occidental world. It was like a period of time when the communism took place here in the world, and the communism became in the devil around the world, okay? Because even United States said that communist people ate children, something like stupid things like this, okay? But in the other hand, if you went to the Europe in the East, they suffering lots, because they were so strict with that countries. Soviet Union treated all these countries very bad, and they forced it to put aside the freedom and all the potential of this kind of people. So it was very difficult period of time. It was like very tense, very tense, because in the first opportunity that each part has, maybe we could destroy all the world. So it was very dangerous.
Okay, the last question. What type of weapons did the two world powers have at their disposal?
I think that this is the most important reason about the Cold War, because they discovered the nuclear weapons, okay, atomic bombs took place in that period of time, and the most amount of atomic bombs have United States and nowadays Russia. So imagine if somebody treats to the other one that this is very dangerous. in 5 seconds you destroy all the cities around the United States, maybe in the West Coast. So that was the tense period of time, because all the time we are in alarm, we are in alert, only because they wanted the atomic bomb. So it was very difficult to understand. Even the legend said that in Cuba the Soviet Union had 3 or 4 atomic bombs. Even they say that in Alaska there were another one pointing to Russia. Then another one say that in South Korea to North Korea, and North Korea to South Korea. So it was very difficult because we have all the potential in the atomic bombs that have United States and Russia to destroy maybe 5 Earths. So it was very difficult to live in that period of time. Even the population in some places in United States has like bunkers in the backgrounds of the houses, only to be prepared, because maybe in some minutes you could set the war is here, so we need to hide in the bunker, and we can go outside for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. So they were prepared, something like that. It was very difficult.
Wow, thanks for your information, teacher. Hope you enjoyed this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Finally, I'm going to close this video with my opinion. 6 million Jews slaughtered, 21 million Russians killed millions of people, and races lost their lives. If that couldn't unite the people of this planet, I think that nothing will. They had a chance back and they didn't take it. Instead, they formed the Cold War, which is a very difficult and traumatic period for the humanity. I think it was incredible, pointless, and time-consuming. There was no point on it. Capitalism and socialism are very different, but if I have to choose one, I will be a capitalist person, because I think that it works better than socialism. That's all for my part, and I only have to say thanks for your attention.